City Council Committee on Government Services co-host with the Committee of a Whole will meet in person on Thursday, September 25th, 2025 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of discussing marriages performed in City Hall. The City Council will to delegate authority to City Clerk, use of the City Council chamber and anteroom with City Council President approval. The meeting will be held in the City Council chambers, 93 Washington Street, Salem, Massachusetts. Here's the link provided, password 587096, telephone below. In-person shall be the primary method of access to such meetings. And again, tonight, and sorry for the confusion for everyone, if everyone, I'm sure not everyone's confused, but we have a few orders that have to do with everything when it comes to the council policy. I decided to bring up all of these so we can either discharge and discuss a few of these, so we can hopefully at the end of this have a marriage policy and we can move this on to the full council. So with that, here we go. Let's discuss the marriages performed in City Hall. Under discussion. Councilor Stott.
Thank you, Chair Varela. I guess I'll take this one. So we discussed at our last government services meeting, for those that were not here, a new chamber allowable usage and usage policy that the committee as a whole agreed on and voted to recommend to the council this evening. We also voted on editing the existing ordinance that currently says the chamber use is decided by the council, deferred to the clerk by incorporating this new chamber use policy. So we're all caught up now. One of the items in the allowable use in the new policy is weddings, and that's what was sent out along with the policy that we discussed right before the meeting yesterday. So weddings is the fifth item under allowable uses for City Council chamber. And just referring back to that policy that the committee already reviewed, the fifth use is weddings performed by Salem's City Clerk's Office, Justice of the Peace, see additional policy endorsed by the City Council. So this additional policy is what we have this evening. It was emailed out to all of us, so hopefully we have our documents to review. But it basically is a revised version of what the clerk was using to confirm with the public how weddings would happen in council chambers. A few of the edits that we talked about in committee that we were looking to see were number of guests, to make sure that that was a limited number. Accessibility, to make sure that at all times there was an accessible path from the mayor's office to the restrooms, that the doors were never closed or obstructed, that this is a place of business, that there can be no food or confetti, no animals except for service animals, and then the timing of the wedding. I don't know if we want to go through them point by point.
So I guess I'll start this off. So, all right, so when it comes to the policy here, we'll start off with the initial paragraph. Wedding ceremonies may be performed in City Council chambers by the City Clerk and Assistant City Clerk when such ceremonies are unable to occur in the office of the City Clerk and are subject to the following rules. Number 1, wedding parties, including the wedding couple, guests, and photographers, shall not exceed 8 persons. Under discussion, Councilor Stott.
Thank you, Chair Varela. So 8 people so originally the number was 10, and that did not include the officiant or really have any guidelines around it. So in my mind, I'm like 10, and plus you can bring a photographer, plus you could have like a flower girl. Is that considered? Plus you have the actual Justice of the Peace performing the wedding. So I felt like that was larger. I requested a lower number. It came back with 8. If you read further on, it also, that's why there are stanchions over here this evening, because also in the policy it says they would only be performed on this side. Personally, can 9 people fit standing up comfortably over here? What do we all think? I think that that's still kind of a crowded area, and if it's that large number, they should move to the annex or someplace that might have more room. I think 4, which that would be the couple, and 2 guests is a reasonable number.
All right, under discussion. Councilor Hepworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, in these kinds of weddings, I think that typically what you see, someone getting married by the justice of the peace in council chambers, you'll have the photographer, you'll have the couple, you'll have the officiant. There are frequently situations, if you've seen weddings in Salem, and I have, that are smaller ceremonies where they have, both couples may have a kid or two kids. They may have a family member here. I feel like 8 feels like an appropriate number, and I don't see why 8 or 9 people couldn't fit on that half of the room over there. I just think that we need to remember that this isn't just tourists coming in to get married. This is also people who don't have other places to get married, and this is a dignified place for them to get married. And I feel like their kids should be able to be here, their close family should be able to be here, but it's not a party. 8 feels appropriate to me personally.
Thank you, Chair Hepworth. Councilor Harvey.
Thank you, Chair Varela. I agree with Councilor Hepworth. I think 8 is an appropriate number. I mean, unfortunately, my son just got married here 2 weeks ago, and he wasn't able to do it in chambers, and I found out about it later on that afternoon. Granted, that's a personal issue, but I think that, you know, if people wanted to have a couple people to enjoy that moment with them, I just think, you know, 4 is too low of a number. I think 8's appropriate.
Thank you. Before, it'll go Councilor Merkel and Councilor Marcelo a bit before that. So I guess my comment would be, I just think a number might be arbitrary. I don't think we should limit it to an X number. I think that 8 could be reasonable, 10 could be reasonable, like we just discussed, and what Councilor Hepworth said. I do agree that this may be the most inclusive, affordable place for people to get married and have a tiny little remote ceremony here. So for that reason, I don't want to get rid of that access for residents that live in our city, that they want to get married in city council chambers. What's a reasonable number? Under discussion, Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, Chair Varela. As people on the committee know, I had spoke about this in the last 2 meetings. I land a little bit differently with this because of the history of the issues. I won't reiterate, you know, all of them, but there were a lot of issues when weddings were going on in the chamber. There were blocked doors, photographers set up in the halls, blocking access, people walking through, getting comments made to them. There's, you know, there's already been a complaint filed based on disability made to the city here, and my concern is that we had a policy in place while that happened, and that didn't prevent that, and I'm just not comfortable with what it would take, the resources with staff, you know, to be up here monitoring before weddings happen, what's happening in the hall, access, people aren't, you know, making a comment. Just, that's a lot of staff resources that would go on. Anybody can get married at City Hall anytime, they absolutely should. I just would feel more comfortable as far as running a wedding hall in here, that it would not be during city business hours. And also, I just want to point out, with the order saying that private and commercial uses are not permitted in the council chambers without majority approval of the city council, a wedding is a very private event. So that's just where I land, but yes, everyone will feel differently. Thank you.
Councilor Merkel, Councilor Stott. I'm sorry, Councilor Marcelo.
Thank you, Chair. I am willing to try the 8. This is down from 10 where it was before. I think we've made it clear in our discussions that things need to be different in this room. One thing I don't see in this, just as I'm looking through it, is where in the room these ceremonies are going to take place. I think that the clerk has agreed to stay over on this right side to keep to keep all of the activity away from the pathway and make it clear that it's a minor use in the room and that people are allowed to go through. I just want to say, this is not a function hall. This is a business. This is a building that people are trying to work in. And sound carries, and I think that that's where people are having trouble with the number, and I completely agree. It's a joyful event. A wedding is a joyful event, and you want to clap and you want to be cheerful. The noise carries. And so that's my concern here. I mean, sitting in this room having meetings, we hear it every night at 6:45, right? We know how sound carries in this building from the first floor all the way up. So, but I'm willing to try the 8, but I also need some language in here that the weddings need to be over on the right-hand side. We need to set up a space. They need to know where that space is to keep the weddings over there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Gerslow.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just looking around the room. There's 10 of us here. Are they allowed to sit in the seats, our seats? No, okay. Thank you.
Councilor Cohen.
Thanks, Chair, not being a member of the committee. I agree with Councilor Merkel, but I also I really didn't think about this until Councilor Marcillo brought it up. And before I address that, any number is arbitrary. I mean, like, you always start with a number, okay? And then you change it. I mean, I don't know what the difference between 7 and 9 is. But I've seen a lot of weddings here when I've been waiting to meet with the mayor or the solicitor or whoever, and it's what are you going to do? Tell people to be quiet? You know, it's like, as you know, I got married in front of a justice of the peace, and there was 4 of us, but we made a whole bunch of noise. You know, it was really great, and everyone in the staff of the justice of the peace who was in New Orleans came out and cheered us on. And this is just a very awkward space. I mean, as far as the actual space, we could say, you know, the south side of the room to the, to the right of the podium. And I think to Councilor Gerslow's point, we should say that this is not the council seats. They can use any other seats, but they can't use the seats that are used for the council. But I do think that when I've seen weddings here, it's hard to keep people in the same spot. I think that this whole exercise has resulted in a more accessible room, but access isn't just the physical access. It's, we know this from tour guides. It's how many people are in the space, and they the space takes on its own thing about people going where they want to go. They want to hug someone. They're going to walk around the chairs or whatever.
Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Not being a member of the committee, and also just, wasn't at the last meeting, so playing catch up a bit, but very much agree with what Councilor Merkel said as well. I have a hard time believing that these rules will be enforced or followed. I did have a question about kind of how folks will know about these rules. But even so, I agree with, a lot of what Councilor Cohen was saying. I think it's going to be hard to enforce. So I agree in the sense that my preference would be to not have weddings in council chambers, especially not during these hours. So those are I did have another question that has escaped me, but I will come back to me.
Thank you. To answer your question, it's my belief that before people book a wedding in city council chambers, they're made aware of the policy from the city clerk, and then they work within that constraint. All right, so we have more to cover. Where are we at with the number of people? Anybody, any more comments? Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not being a member of the committee, I do have language I would add in to Councilor Marcillo's point if we want to talk about that right now around the location.
Since it's not in here, let's do it. That's fine.
So I think adding I guess it would be before number 10, so number 10 would become number 11 because I feel like that should be last. Location of ceremonies. All wedding ceremonies must take place on the south side of council chambers. Ceremonies shall be conducted in a manner that preserves unobstructed access to all doors, public pathways, and restrooms. Is that capture what we're trying to do. That's the south side, I think.
I think it does. Wasn't able to write that down, but I like it. Councillor Stott.
Yeah, I'll second that for discussion, but I was curious so that's why I requested the clerk to bring these up, because the second item on the policy is that stanchions, how do you say that? Stanchions will be placed from the chair to the first council desk. So that essentially creates this area as blocked off. So I'm thinking we could probably continue that sentence of saying, this area is blocked off and will be utilized for wedding ceremonies, because that's all in the same, right? And I didn't know if it was this kind, it's kind of nitpicky, it doesn't really matter as long as it's that pathway. And then that creates the area back here, because it says this, while it first creates an ADA accessible path, it will also keep people off of the path and on this side of the room. Does that make sense? Making sense? You look confused.
Councilor Marcillo.
I have a question about how the stanchion is supposed to be used. That's, when I walked in, I was like,
It was like this.
So once the wedding party is here, that gets closed off?
That's my assumption, because it was in there when it came out.
Okay, that sort of makes sense to me, and it does make it clear that there's something going on over here, but that's still open. Okay.
Excellent. All right, so I guess in a nutshell, what you just said, it'd be like location of ceremony shall be within the south side of the council chambers that are clearly delineated by stanchions in the room. I know we can work on that, but it's kind of what we're at now.
I'll second Councillor Hapworth's motion, but just recommend that the language is added to the second item, so it's kind of all together with the sanction.
Question, not being a member of the committee.
Good point.
Do it.
So I will make that motion that we add language to item number 2 to notate that the area that is blocked off by the sanctions is the area that must be utilized for ceremonies. Something like that?
Just for clarity, I believe that Councillor Hapworth's recommendation was to put it at number 10 and bring number 11, no?
I think it makes, I don't know who made sorry.
Go ahead, please.
I think whoever made the recommendation that adding it to number 2 makes sense. So I think you just put all wedding ceremonies must take place on the south side of council chambers, and then the doors on both sides of the chamber must remain open, stanchions, blah, blah, blah. I think just adding that language, all wedding ceremonies must take place on the south side of council chambers, probably covers all of that.
Very good. Under discussion, Councilor Jerslow.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not being a member of the committee, but did anybody check with the fire department? Is that a safety issue, blocking off an access? Because you have a door here, you can't get through here.
I would say no, because the clear door's here, and here, the ante room is
But
obviously.
if you're rallying everybody over here,
Yeah.
no, but if there's a fire, I'm just saying, did anybody check with the fire department? The safety reason, that's all.
Councilor Harvey.
To answer your question, I'm sorry, through you to Cindy. That is a movable, it's not a permanent fixture, so that would not fall under the fire code. That's the purpose of those.
Councilor Cohen.
I'm not trying to throw a wrench in this, but at least half the weddings I've seen, what's the coolest place in this room to take pictures? And I've seen half the wedding parties take a picture up behind the podium. I didn't know.
All right, so Councilor Stott.
I will second.
Councilor Mercer. All right, so Councilor Stott makes a motion for the language we discussed, seconded by Councilor Marcillo. All those in favor from the committee, let the record show. I see 3 hands plus my own. Nays, 1. Matter carries. All right, let's move on. All right, number 2, doors on both sides of chambers must remain open and stanchions placed from entrance. Sorry, I thought we lost the meeting. Placed from stanchions, placed from the entrance, mayor's side, to the city, let me start this over, guys, sorry. 1 second, we're connecting to Zoom again. What is going on? One second. What the hell's going on? not connected. So 1 second. Yeah, probably. It's you. All right, let me start it back again. Zoom did go out? Okay. All right. Let me just open it up again and see if it works. Probably won't. Okay, here we go. All right, back to it. All right, let's start that up again. All right, number 2, doors on both sides of the chambers must remain open and stanchions placed from the entrance, mayor's office side, to the first city council desk, thereby creating a clear path through the chambers. This shall create an ADA accessible path from the mayor's office to the restrooms and elevator. Staff and members of the public shall be free to travel through the chambers on this path during any ceremony. Any discussion? Seems pretty self-explanatory, and I do like that language. Any members from the committee? Any members from Occult? Nope. All right. We'll move on. Number 3, no one or anything, i.e. guests, photographers, tripods, may block double doors where ceremonies take place. The doors on either side may not be obstructed. Any discussion? I'm assuming no. We'll move on. Number 4, no decorations, cake, champagne, confetti, or rice may be used in the city council chambers or on city council hall stairs. Any discussion? Assuming no. Great. Number 5, since City Hall is a place of business, loud noise must be kept at a minimum during office hours. Clapping at the end of a ceremony is expected, but ceremony guests must refrain from yelling, whistling, ringing bells, etc. So, I mean, I have one comment on this. I just don't know how this is going to be enforced. I think there's going to be some jeering when this happens, but I guess at least it's written in the policy. Under discussion, Councilor Stott.
Agreed. I mean, just like I don't know how the number of people is going to really be enforced. And also, I will say, this is number 5 on our list of allowable uses. There are other items in here, perhaps not election department pre-election work, but the swearing in ceremony, there is clapping. The flag raising, there is clapping. Public speaking events, there is noise that happens in this chamber. So I think calling out weddings specifically and saying, no, you can't make any noise, we have to be kind of equal there. If we're going to allow them, we should, similar to other events.
All right, under discussion. So are you recommending that we eliminate, or we just keep it in and see what happens? Great. All right, any other discussion on that? Nope. All right, number 6, due to the antique furniture and expensive audio and video equipment in chambers, care must be taken by ceremony participants to avoid damage. I'm assuming there's no comment on this. Number 7, no pets are allowed except service animals. 8, guests should not arrive more than 15 minutes before the ceremony and must not block hallway access. Guests may wait quietly inside council chambers until ceremony begins. Once ceremony is over, guests are expected to leave council chambers. Councilor Stott.
Thanks, Chair Varela. Sorry. So that once ceremony is over, guests are expected to leave council chambers. That was a recommended edit from me. So that was not in the version that the clerk put forward, but I feel like there's discussion about before and lingering, and there should also be discussion about after. I know it's a little harsh to be like, thanks, bye, leave, but that's, I think, where the noise happens.
All right, any comment on guests arriving 15 minutes before? Under discussion, Councilor Merkel.
Thank you. No discussion. It's just not on my copy, so I was wondering if you could repeat that, just so I have it.
It's at the end of number 8, and it says, once ceremony is over, guests are expected to leave council chambers.
All right, under discussion. Counselor Morcello and then Counselor Davis.
I think that this addresses the issue of the weddings that bring a photographer and then spend 30 minutes in here in all different locations in the room taking photographs. It's a beautiful room, but again, it's not a wedding venue, it's an office building, and that's part of what is causing the issue in this room, so.
Counselor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. This is going back to number 3. It's a grammatical thing. I don't know how much it matters, but the word anything would imply that things can block the doors. It should be no one or thing or no person or object. Yeah, no one or nothing. No one and nothing.
Any member of the committee feel like we need to make that change? Counselor Stott.
Sure, I'll make a motion to revise number 3 that says no person or thing.
All right, Counselor, can I get a second?
Second.
Counselor Marcelo seconds. All those in favor of the change to number 3? Let the record show. I see 4 hands plus my own. The matter carries. All right. Now we are...
Sorry, Chair, do we need a vote on that add that I added for number 8?
I mean,
Yep.
Yep, sure, let's do it. So number 8, once ceremony is over, guests are expected to leave council chambers. Motioned by Councilor Stott, seconded by Councilor Morcello. All those in favor? Let the record show. I see 4 hands plus my own. That matter carries. All right, one second. All right, number 9, the wedding couple must check into room 3 approximately 15 minutes before the ceremony to review the marriage license. Under discussion, Councilor Stott.
Thank you. So this was one that I'm fine with. You can't arrive more than 15 minutes. You have to check in, but again, with just the number of people and it's like thinking of Halloween Day, for example, where they're so booked with weddings, they're taking the day off to perform weddings all day here, which I actually have no problem with. But thinking if they're back to back to back, you can have a ceremony of 8 people, a ceremony of 8 people waiting outside, and then a ceremony of 8 people that just happened. Like, that's a big crowd. So there's no place regarding timing and scheduling and how that pacing should work, that it doesn't just turn into, a crowding of wedding guests. So I would recommend in the policy, which was one topic that we talked about during the committee meeting, but we didn't have any language in there for when we talk about weddings performed by the Salem City Clerk, see additional policy endorsed by City Council. I don't know if it's something that should go in this policy or in the room policy, that the length of time that the wedding should take place in chambers. Like, are they 15 minutes? Are they 30 minutes? I'm not sure. And how much time in between each scheduled ceremony. Again, this is something that I don't think we should be doing or have to do, but I think these are the pieces that are going to kind of become an issue if we don't clearly state them, unfortunately. So I would think that adding in language about at least 15 minutes in between each scheduled wedding of that sort, and weddings do not last longer than 30 minutes. Again, I'm not sure if it goes into this policy that's handed to people or in the chamber use policy, but I think something along those lines need to be cleared. And I'm not sure on the agenda tonight if I can recommend edits to the chamber use policy, because if I could, I would make a motion to recommend that we edit that policy that we discussed to add language that says weddings should not exceed, I'm just going to say 30 minutes in time, but I don't know what the correct answer is there, with at least 15 minutes in between each scheduled wedding.
All right, I tend to agree with you. I mean, I don't see why it couldn't be in the wedding policy, but also maybe it is important to clearly spell it out in the actual city council chambers under discussion. Councilor Marcello.
Thank you, Chair. So I do agree with this. I've been going back and forth on the time that it can't exceed, but I think weddings should not exceed 30 minutes is fine. I think that mostly they're 15 minutes. So 30 minutes is fine. I do actually agree with the 15 minutes in between, and the reason is because of Halloween. It's not that this policy is going to change anything this year because the weddings are already booked, but that is a problem day here. I don't know if there's any other problem days, but we really do get a line of people outside waiting to get married, and it is a place of business. Even on Halloween, it's a place of business. And so I would want to try this, knowing that it's not going to affect Halloween this year, but I think that should be the policy. There should be 15 minutes in between to take care of the stuff that has to happen, the paperwork that has to happen downstairs, and to make sure there aren't two groups waiting at any one time to come in and get married, because that's where the noise is going to happen.
Very good. So does someone want to make a motion to put this in the wedding policy, or are we going to wait till my committee report tonight and discuss it? Councilor Marcello.
I could go either way on this. I know that the clerk hands this to each couple when they come in to do the paperwork to get married. So I could do either one.
Councilor Stott.
I do think noting the length of time, so just setting expectations for the couples to know, like, I'm not going to have the room for an hour, like I'm not booking a reception hall for an hour, that it's 30 minutes tops. It would be good to have at least that part in the policy. Another point for the 15 minutes, we're asking them to get there 15 minutes before the scheduled time. So like, it's essentially like that is the scheduled time already. So just adding that language is what the expectation is. I think in both spots, honestly, I would like to see it both in the chamber use policy about weddings and over here. But I guess for tonight, I would make a motion to recommend we add a number 11 that says wedding ceremonies shall not exceed 30 minutes in time, with at least 15 minutes in between each scheduled wedding. I mean, might as well add it in there, and if we can also add it in policy, I don't think it would hurt.
All right.
So that's my motion. Sorry, I don't know if I said
All right. Under discussion, Councilor Harvey.
Thank you, Chair Varela. Just a quick question. The 15 minutes, showing up 15 minutes early and going to room 3, is that to verify that all the information on their wedding certificate and everything is correct? Do we know? I'm just, what gets me with that is if we're asking them to show up 15 minutes early, there's only 15 minutes in between each wedding. The wedding's only good for half an hour. If the wedding is scheduled that in advance to be on that day, isn't that something that could be done prior to that day? Is that a question that we should maybe ask the city clerk's office, so that, because I can only see what's going to happen is, like you were just saying, on Halloween, we have a line out the door. What happens if something's not correct? Now that person's scheduled to have their wedding 15 minutes from then, does that give them enough time to resolve the issue and keep things flowing, per se? I mean, if it's a scheduled wedding, why couldn't they verify all that information a day before or ahead of schedule?
Under discussion, Councilor Cohen, and then Councilor Stott.
I actually agree with that. When Flora and I got married in New Orleans, we had to provide, like, all the information had to be verified, like, literally, like, 30 days in advance. I mean, like, because they don't want to delay things. So I agree with the policy of 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes. I just feel like it might be incumbent on the clerk to insist that they get all their information, certified in advance.
Councilor Stott, then Councilor Merkel.
Yeah, sure. So just to reiterate this is the clerk's policy, that they're requesting them to come 15 minutes early. It's always been that way. So whatever their procedures are for doing it, they probably could improve, but that's theirs to do. I will also say wedding ceremonies are a second task for them. That's not their primary role. So like they're the city clerk. They're not, the justice of the peace work is not the revenue. None of this revenue comes to the city. None of this, it's kind of like a side business that they can do during office hours, right? But it's legal, it's all up in the front. But my point of saying that is that's their policy and their procedure to figure out how to make it more efficient or do it cleaner. But we need to put guidelines around just, I think, taking up space and taking them away from their day jobs that they should be doing and making sure it doesn't get too backed up and bananas.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, Chair Varela. If it's helpful to know from the emails we had received from the city clerk a while back, just for context, not offering advice here, but when the couple comes in on the day and time of the wedding, we have them check in at room 3, so one of my employees can go over the printed license one more time with them to see if anything needs to be corrected before Maureen or I sign off on it to go to Boston. Just if that helps you to know what the procedure is for the 15 minutes. And then it says the ceremony itself, it generally takes an average of 15 minutes.
Thank you for the clarification, Councilor Merkel. So there's a motion from Councilor Stott to add number 11, wedding ceremony shall not exceed 30 minutes. Parties shall arrive 15 minutes before scheduled time. Is that correct? In a nutshell.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Marcillo. All those in favor? Let the record show. I see 4 hands plus my own. That matter carries. All right. I'm getting there. All right, so number 10, guests must abide by all rules applicable to city offices. Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that we should, a lot of this in here feels like people won't follow these rules, and I think that we need to assign a little bit of responsibility to the city clerk and to the council president. So I think what I would do is add language that says, so we have guests must comply with all rules applicable to city offices. The city clerk or designee is responsible for ensuring compliance with this policy and may take appropriate action if rules are not followed. And then, I don't know how we feel about this, but the city council president retains authority to revoke the ability to perform wedding ceremonies in council chambers if repeated or non-compliance with the policy occurs. Do we feel comfortable saying the council president, whoever that is, retains that authority, or should that be up to the council as a whole? What's everyone's thoughts?
Councilor Harvey, then Councilor Stott.
I would have to disagree with the president being the only one to have say in that. I think it should go to the council of a whole. The president can bring it forward, but keep in mind our president changes every year. So I just feel it should be something that everybody discussed and determined, not just one person saying, you didn't do it the way you're supposed to. I think it should be a mutual agreement amongst the whole council.
Councilor Stott, then Councilor Hapworth.
Just for clarity, too, we actually had this as a discussion in the committee meeting, I believe. So this is the policy specific to weddings, but the chamber use policy is also applicable here for weddings that go on, right? That also still needs to be abided by. And there's actually 2 items that I think speak to your point. One of them is if a disruption occurs, the requesting city staff shall notify the applicant and work to resolve the disruption. So I think, because again, not just weddings, if a flag raising goes awry or a public safety swearing in, like it's either the mayor's office or HR or the city clerk are responsible for following the rules. The city clerk obviously reports to the council, so any additional follow-up there is needed. We also have in the policy rule or the chamber rule, that the city council reserves the right to refuse or revoke permission to use of council chambers when a proposed scheduling effect conflicts, and also editing the policy at any time, which could be removing weddings.
All right, under discussion, Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you. I mean, that makes complete sense. I think that it would be important to note here that weddings are the hot button issue right now, and they're probably the reason we're sitting here right now. So I don't think it hurts to put that in the wedding policy. I worry that some of these rules, if they're not followed, we're going to hear, I mean, I can't control, like, these people come in here and they had a wedding and it was loud and people cheered and I'm sorry and someone threw something and they had, like, these kind of things, like it needs to, the buck needs to stop with the folks who are conducting the wedding and then with the council. So I would still be in favor of putting this into number 10 and just saying that guests must comply with these rules, the clerk is responsible, and the city council, if we want to say the committee of the whole, or the city council may revoke this authority for repeated offenses. That sounds appropriate to me, but.
Under discussion, Councilor Stott.
Sorry, just to add in that, yes, weddings are an issue and probably why this started, but they are not the only issue. Everything that was just said could happen and has happened with other events not run by the clerk. So this is, I think, a larger discussion than just weddings, and I wouldn't want to, really call that out. Like, yes, the council is going to be responsible for making sure this policy happens and is followed. Yeah.
All right, Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Councilor Hapworth. I think any way we can make it clear that we, have the right to, and just the fact that we would have oversight and that would be clearly written is something that I would appreciate because again, I think that the major concern with all of this is the lack of enforcement. So the fact that it would be written very clearly for the clerk staff, for us, for the people having weddings to see, I think that'd be important. So I would support that.
1 second. Councilor Stott, can you just repeat for me, the language you were proposing?
The city clerk is responsible for ensuring compliance with the policy and may take appropriate action if rules are not followed. The city council retains the authority to revoke the ability to perform wedding ceremonies in council chambers for repeated or serious non-compliance.
Councilor Cohen, then Councilor Stott.
Thank you, Chair. Not being a member of the committee, I agree with Councilor Stott. This policy is being given to people who want to get married, and I think we've talked about this before. We should never have ordinance or policies that are directed to like a circumstance at the time or a person who's in the job. The job description should define anyone who's in that job or any circumstance. And I think the fact that this committee has an overall chamber policy that would apply to this is good enough.
Councilor Stott.
And I would just make one final point. The council does have the power, and we used it eventually in May, to halt all weddings going on in the chambers.
Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you. I'd be in favor of the first sentence that was given there to be added on. I think that giving some ownership to the city clerk, that the city clerk is responsible for making sure that all of this is followed, is appropriate in this policy. And I agree that the existing language and the use of the room is sufficient and is part of the ordinance. So I think that we're covered on what we can do as a council and our ability to shut this down if we need to, and any other item that's allowed in this room.
Can you repeat the first sentence again? Thank you.
Thank you. I think that actually that makes a lot of sense. If this is public facing, so that's a fair point that they don't need to see our internal policies. But I think to know that the clerk is responsible and is an authority figure in the room is important probably. But the city clerk is responsible for ensuring compliance with this policy and may take appropriate action if rules are not followed. Did you get that?
I'll get it from you later.
I'll move that.
All right. May a motion by Councilor Marcillo for number 10, seconded by Councilor Harvey. All those in favor? Let the record show I see 4 hands plus my own. That matter carries. Excellent. All right. So we reviewed, let me see here. We did review everything. So any other comments? Councilor Stott.
If no other comments, I can make a motion.
Please.
I would like to make a motion that the committee moves to recommend to first rescind order number 206 that was voted on by council in May of this year, 2025, to halt all weddings in council chambers and to adopt the wedding policy as discussed.
Was that 206?
Yeah, so rescind order number 206 and adopt the wedding policy to be included in.
And before we move on, there is One other agenda item, City Council delegated authority to City Clerk for the use of City Council chambers and anteroom for President's approval. I would like to either discharge that and just end this right now. I mean, can we just entertain a motion?
We can refer that back to committee with no action
Sure.
because the other items are actioning.
Great. And then we'll figure it out later. Excellent. So Councilor Stott makes a motion to rescind Order 206 and adopt the wedding policy we just discussed.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Morcillo. All those in favor? Let the record show I see three hands plus my own. Nays? One nay. Matter carries. All right. Entertain another motion. Oh, go ahead.
What's the one that we're referring back without
The
action?
one we're referring back
Or
with
discharging.
no is discharging is City Council delegate authority to City Clerk for use of City Council chamber and anteroom with the City Council President's approval.
So I move to discharge that.
Councilor Morcillo moves to discharge this order for City
Second.
Council President's approval, seconded by Councilor Stott. All those in favor? So for clarification, that was my order put in. I believe at this point it's redundancy, and I just want to move it out. All right, so all those in favor, let the record show I see 4 hands plus my own. That matter carries. Entertain
Motion to
another
adjourn.
Motion adjourned by Councilor Morcillo. All those in favor? All right, thank you, everyone.